started in a moment. Check miking. Check. We'll check. Okay. Sound check on everything. Facebook. Okay. YouTube. Somebody send me a message on thing. Let me know. BeEzrat HaShem. Good sound. Okay. Facebook's good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. App, YouTube. Everything good. TikTok. You guys can hear me? All right. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shir Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on Wednesday night, Stump the Rabbi. We're after some Divrei Torah, relevant to the times and the parsha. BeEzrat Hashem, you guys will then ask some questions. BeEzrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. Tonight's shiur is for the Refuah Shlema for Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahis that continue to learn with us and contribute to the organization and help us do all the wonderful things that we're doing. Anyone that still hasn't received some books, especially the new English Hebrew book that we have on the Kiruv store to distribute in your communities, you can go and get yourself a box of 20 for free on our website, kiruvstore.org, KIRUVSTORE.org, and bring it to your synagogue, yeshiva, local Jewish supermarket, Judaica stores, and so on. There's quite a few people, Baruch Hashem, that have ordered. Another few hundred copies were sent out today here in the U.S. And Baruch Hashem, thousands were distributed in Israel over the last couple of days, Baruch Hashem, and our wonderful team over there. So anyone that hasn't gotten the book, get yourself the book and distribute it. There's easiest Kiruv opportunity in the world, as the sages teach us, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi HaKadosh, that when he found out the significance of what doing Kiruv is, when he saw the judgment in heaven for his nephew Rabbi Chia, Rabbi HaKadosh was already an old man, and he saw that his nephew in Shamayim is treated like royalty, to the extent where even other great tzaddikim were not able to reach his level, where every tzaddik that got to Gan Eden, and if he wanted to go visit different tzaddikim, he wanted to go to the yeshiva of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, or he wanted to go to the yeshiva of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or the yeshiva of Rabbi Akiva, or yeshiva of Moshe Rabbeinu. Each one of them has their own sections. Each time someone wants to go there, they have to have permission, and the angels have to take them there. Whereas Rabbi Chia, because he did Kiruv, was able to go wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted. There was simply no judgment. And that's why the Zohar Kadosh tells us that when somebody makes Zikuy Rabim, when somebody makes Kiruv their priority in this world, whether it's by donating money on a regular basis as Maaser or Chomesh, or they are contributing by their skill or their time, or they're distributing books, arranging lectures, whatever they're doing, but they're doing it as not just a once in a blue moon when I get a chance, but rather as one of the top priorities they have in their life. The Zohar Kadosh says when they go up to Shamayim, there is no judgment. Meaning, it does, whatever a person did in this world, that obviously he made mistakes, she made mistakes, they did Teshuva for it. Any of those things that they've made a mistake on, when they go up to Shamayim, they simply don't exist. Don't exist. Why? The Bet Din doesn't even look at this person. As soon as someone that does Kiruv arrives in Shamayim, pass along, move along. Your 310 worlds are ready for you. For each person that you helped do Teshuva, it's 310 worlds. You helped 10 people do Teshuva, you got 3,100 worlds, and so on and so forth. So when I first started doing Kiruv many years ago, Baruch HaShem, I first started by publicizing Rabbi Ephraim's shiurim on YouTube, and then I started publicizing Rabbi Mizrahi's shiurim and his CDs, and then different books by Rabbi Zamir Cohen. And in so many words, at that time, I literally looked for any opportunity that I could to get people to listen to Torah. And that meant that I had to spend a bunch of money to get CDs, to get books, to get all these different things that I wanted to give to people. I didn't get anything for free. Everything that I got, I had to pay for it. And this was already at a time where we were struggling for money. But needless to say, we knew that there's a priority to fix. There's a priority to fix ourselves, to fix the status of Am Yisrael. And literally, we would, collect whatever we could, order some more CDs, order some more books, order some more things to give out to different people. And Baruch Hashem, it brought a lot of blessing over the over the last decade and a half or so. And one of the things that boggles my mind now is that people are still hesitant to get books for free, to get USBs for free and distribute in their communities. It's just mind-boggling to me that although Baruch Hashem there are countless people that hundreds and hundreds of people that have ordered and have distributed in their communities. I honestly think that if people really understood the significance of doing Kiruv, anytime we get another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 books or other things that we get, literally the store should be empty within 24 hours. If people truly understood the value of it. And it's amazing how hard the Yetzer Hara works on people to make sure that they do not do the easiest mitzvah in the world for the greatest reward in the world. It's literally the easiest mitzvah because you don't even have to pay for it. Sure, we'd love for you to contribute, to donate, to help us. We need it. It's cost millions of dollars to do all of this stuff. But the point is that when a person not only does not contribute but their money, but not even their time, it's just simply mind-boggling to me. So BeEzrat Hashem, people understand more and more of what's necessary, and all of the excuses in the world, whether I'm busy going to YESHIVA, or I'm busy working, or I'm busy and all those things, those are fantastic excuses for a person to say to themselves. But when they go up to Shamayim, they're going to be very, very remorseful on what they missed out on. And that's that's for the people that are good people. That's for the people that have done Teshuva. That's for the people that are going to get to Gan Eden. But when they see what was missed, when they didn't take advantage of opportunities, it's literally almost like a punishment, if not worse. So, with that being said, with a little bit of a reminder for everyone, whether you are the locals or you are the ones that are in different parts of the country, everyone needs a little chizuk in this regards at all times. Now, in this week's parasha, we are Parashat Mishpatim. We have just heard and saw the words of God at Mount Sinai in Parashat Yitro. And after this extraordinary event at Mount Sinai, we are, excited. We are invigorated. We are, everything. Every emotion that has a word to describe it and one that doesn't have a word, we have it. So you figure that after Mount Sinai, after this extraordinary event, you're going to tell me some more cool stuff. In last week's Parashat Yitro, we heard that Mount Sinai turned into a diamond, one huge giant diamond, and flew in the air. And Am Yisrael also flew in the air under it, and literally everything was in the air. Angels, all types of words are being inscribed in the sky. The seven heavens are all opened up, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows Am Yisrael there's nothing else but Him. Literally the definition of En Od Milvado, that there's nothing else but Him. All types of extraordinary, supernatural things. So you figure we're going from there. We're gonna, go into some more cool stuff that is, show us people flying, people doing all. No. What do we get? Eved Ivri, the Jewish slave, and then a bunch of different laws that kind of take the excitement and put it on the side a little bit, and we're like, oh, hold on a second, oh, maybe these laws are exciting. And then you start going into the laws, and you compare it to modern day ideology, and many times people find themselves in disagreement with the law, or simply not understanding it, or thinking that it's no longer applicable, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, our Torah is never going to be exchanged, replaced, changed in any way, shape, or form. So, why did God do all of this? What if I don't understand the law, or perhaps I don't agree with the law? Is it okay that I don't agree, or I don't understand what God's doing, what God is saying? Well, let's see, Rabotai. Of course, Darkenu B'Kodesh, we always rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give us the Siyat Dishmaya and the words to say, to make sure that we say the words of the living Torah, BeEzrat HaShem. And here in Parashat Mishpatim, instead of starting from the beginning, or better yet, continuing from the beginning, we're going to go towards the end, as we've done in the past several times. And we see something very peculiar. After HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us all of these laws, which we'll get to in a moment, we see something unbelievable that I don't believe many people truly understand here, what actually transpired in this parasha. In chapter 23, in verse number 20, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ineh anochi sholech malach lefanecha lishmerecha badarech ולהביאך אל המקום אשר הכינותי. ישמר מפניו ושמע בקולו, אל תמר בו כי לא יישא לפשעיכם, כי שמי בקרבו. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu, Behold, I send an angel before you to protect you on the way and to bring you into the place that I have prepared. Beware of him, heed his word. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your sins. For his word is spoken in my name. Here we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe Rabbeinu a prophecy. What's this prophecy? Chachamim say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, Am Yisrael, as great as they are right now, as extraordinary as they are right now, I want you, Moshe Rabbeinu, to know. I want you to know that Am Yisrael is about to make the sin of the golden calf. They're going to make a sin of the golden calf, and because of that, I'm no longer going to walk with you. I'm going to send an angel instead. But this angel is representing me. Going against him is like going against me, but unlike having this direct relationship with me, if you sin, the angel does not have the capacity to forgive. He'll kill on the spot. Now, as scary as that may be, which we will talk about perhaps later on this year when we go into that parasha, when the golden calf, what are we seeing here right now? What are we seeing? We're seeing the idea that many people struggle with. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows the future, then why does he allow it to happen? Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew that Am Yisrael is going to sin. Not only sin, golden calf sin, Hashem Yishmor V'Yatzil, that we're still suffering for until this day, by the way. Until this day we're suffering. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that Am Yisrael is going to do this. He's telling Moshe Rabbeinu they're going to do this. Why? Why let it happen? Put a stop to it. Don't let it happen. Most people didn't even realize that this was all already foretold to Moshe Rabbeinu well before it happened. The answer why we will eventually get to after we go and ask some more questions. some more why questions. Because there are many of them. You know that the golden calf is going to happen. You even let Moshe Rabbeinu know. And you let it be. Why do you let it be? If you knew I was going to sin with that girl, why'd you let it happen? If you knew I was going to sin with that boy, why'd you let it happen? If you knew I was going to steal, if you knew I was going to commit adultery, if you knew I was going to do this, if you knew I was going to do that, why'd you let it happen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why'd you let it happen? What if the answer that you get is, oh, well, you have free choice, so even though HaShem knows the future, He does not disturb it. He allows people to make their choices. Well, as nice as that explanation is, and as true as it is, it just doesn't sit well with many people because they say, well, I prefer not to sin. I didn't really want to sin. This was a test I preferred not having. Why did God stop me? I don't understand why God did this to me. In so many words, they blame God for their mistakes. Because He knew. Well, let's see, Rabotai. If we go to the beginning of the parasha, the beginning of the parasha tells us about the Jewish slave. And of course, also the Canaanite slave. But here it tells us that this Jewish slave has rules. First and foremost, how does he even become a slave? How does he become a slave? If somebody went and tried to rob somebody, they robbed them, but they got caught. But by the time they got caught, they said, okay, give back the stuff you stole. He doesn't have the money. He spent it, bought a fancy car, and then the car crashed. He bought some jewelry and he gave it to his girlfriend and she ran away with some other guy. You know, it's gone. He spent it on bottles. He spent it on all types of temporary things. Now that you busted down the door with some Mussar agents, and which of course all wearing tzitzit and the kippah with tzaddikim, I knew the entire Shas by heart. But now that you caught him, you gotta pay up. He says, don't speak English. So I'm sorry, you are caught. We know you understand what we're saying. Give the money. So I don't have it. So okay, so you speak English well, but your bank account is not so well. So what do we do with you? Bet Din, Paskins, he becomes a slave. Becomes a slave. In order for him to do Teshuva, in order for him to go serve his new master, which is the victim of his crime, and the victim of his crime actually is now tasked with helping this thief become a better person. He has to feed him. He has to give him. If he has one pillow, he has to give it to him. If he has one bed, he has to give it to him. If he has meat, he has to give him meat. He has to give him everything. If he comes with a wife and kids, he has to feed them also. Meaning that this new owner is not exactly like the slave owners of America and other countries, where for whatever reason or another, people think that slavery has ended. And I've been saying this for years. Slavery has never ended. Slavery has changed. Countless people are slaves. Perhaps they don't realize it, or they don't want to consider themselves as such, but certainly they are. Whether they're slaves to very wealthy people and they're chauffeurs and butlers and cleaning people, or they work for major corporations and pretty much when the corporation calls them in the middle of a weekend to come into the office and work, the answer no is not available. And all types of people that dedicate their life, and in essence, they're slaves. And this is very much part of capitalism. Now, when people hear the word slave, they immediately say, oh, this is bad, this is terrible. I can't believe it. No, there's really nothing wrong with slavery if you actually know what Jewish slavery is. The slavery that most people are familiar with is the evil type of slavery where they, kill people, torture them, rape them, and do all types of things that are against the Torah. But when it comes to Jewish slavery, there's really nothing wrong with slavery. But needless to say, this does not mean that it's it's fun to be a slave. There are rules, there are rebukes. He may even get a slap or two if he's not doing his job. But needless to say, if he gets permanently injured, he's freed. If she gets permanently injured, if she loses an eye or a tooth or something like that, they're free. They're no longer a slave. If they get killed, then the person that killed them, even if it's the owner, gets a death penalty. Even if the owner is a Kohen that's about to bring a sacrifice at the Beit HaMikdash, as soon as they know that he's a killer, they take him off out of the Beit HaMikdash, even if he's in the middle of a servitude and bringing a sacrifice. They take him off the Mizbeach, they bring him to the Bedin, to the Sanhedrin, they do a death penalty. Why? You killed a slave. So, again, slavery is, when you really think about it, is very, very different than people's perception. But nonetheless, there are rules. There are rules. And some of these rules don't agree with the ideology of today, modern day ideology. First off, it says that slaves exist, and in fact, slaves is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu instilled into the world. And there are mitzvot associated with slavery. So automatically, any liberal mentality type of person is rejecting the Torah vehemently. And I've heard this many times from different types of heretics. Oh, you follow Torah? So what? You telling me that you agree with slavery? You agree with someone selling their daughter? You agree with this? This obviously shows that people didn't actually read the Torah. They just, read some Google, or maybe they read a verse without actually understanding it. And that's why we're going to try to understand and learn how to understand what we don't understand. Because already we started the parsha with something that is almost impossible to understand, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew about the golden calf. Moshe Rabbeinu knew about the golden calf. But we continued business as usual. So the slave, Torah Kedusha says, 6-year term, on the 7th year he's freed. If he shall enter servitude by himself, meaning that he's not married, he shall go out by himself, where his master may not give him a Canaanite slave woman for whom to father slaves. And if he is a husband of a Jewish woman, for whom the master is obligated to provide food for, then when he leaves, his wife shall go with him, and the master is no longer obligated to provide her food. And if the master shall give him a Canaanite slave woman, and she bears him sons and daughters, the slave woman and her children shall belong to her master, and he shall go out by himself. So here, we already see a few different conditions. The guy that comes in single, bachelor, got caught stealing. Okay, you're going to be a slave for the next 6 years. On the 7th year, you'll be freed. All right, fine. Listen, I'm a young guy, 20 years old. My hormones are at peak level. Can you hook me up with some Canaanite? No. Well, can I marry someone? No. Well, listen, this other guy, you gave it to him. Yeah, he's married. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Wait, you're telling me the guy that came in here, he's a slave. He's married with kids to a Jewish woman. And you told him, listen, go make me some more slaves. It's a factory. And of course, already, the liberals are like, oh, Torah says to make slaves. I can't believe it. This is an outrage. Yes, it's an outrage. You're 100% right. It's an outrage. But it's Torah. And your acceptance of the Torah is completely irrelevant. to the truth of the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. He is the one that makes the rules. Master says, listen, I got a big field. I just bought another one. We want to do some more farming. We want to expand the operation. We want to go statewide. It's not enough. I need to make some more employees. Why hire if I could just create? So I'm going to give you, I have one Canaanite woman. She's good. She's good for at least 10, 15 more kids. So you, Mr. Married Jew that became a slave, you're going to make me some kids that are going to become my slaves. Wait, but didn't you say in last night's shiur about Jewish intimacy how it's forbidden for a Jew to be with a non-Jew? It's a sin. It's horrible. It's terrible. Yes, but not under these conditions. That doesn't make any sense. Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. Why? Because you're thinking with a human mind. You're thinking you're supposed to understand everything. You're thinking you are a little mini God, and therefore you should understand. Like sometimes I see that people are so busy commenting about different shiurim, they forget to watch. You see it sometimes. Or better yet, sometimes you see, instead of people paying attention to what the Torah is saying, they decide to use this as a platform to show their knowledge by answering everyone's questions. People like that really do not understand the point of the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you 2 ears, 1 mouth, in order for you to listen double while you speak. And even more importantly, if a person learned about Shmuel HaTzadik, Shmuel HaTzadik was compared to Moshe and Aaron combined. And Shmuel HaTzadik nearly got the death penalty by the Kohen Gadol. Why? Because someone asked the question about shchita, about slaughtering, whether you have to use a Kohen or not. And Shmuel gave the answer. He was right about the answer. You don't have to use a Kohen for shchita. Anyone can slaughter the animal as long as they're a kosher Jew. The Kohen just has to do the korban. So what's the problem? Problem is you answered in front of the rabbi, that's a death penalty. So what happened? How could Shmuel still go alive and well? You cannot just forsake the law. Someone violated the law. You have to apply it. Oh, only one thing. Shmuel was not even 3 years old. And therefore, the full wrath of the law did not apply to him yet. And that's why his mother, Hannah, was able to save her son. So this sometimes happens in synagogues, where a rabbi is giving a shiur, and then somebody has a question. Sometimes they say it out loud, sometimes they're just saying it to themselves and somebody hears them, and then somebody says, yeah, no, but you know what it is. It's this, and that. This is a desecration of the honor of the rabbi. Desecration of the Torah. Why? Who asked you? Who asked you? If the rabbi is there, he answers. Yeah, but the rabbi didn't hear. So make sure he hears. Why? Because if you answer in front of the rabbi, then it looks like the rabbi doesn't know the answer and you know better than the rabbi. And that minimizes the Torah of the rabbi. And that happens many times when people learn Torah but they don't understand what Torah is. And the same concept here. Somebody can learn the weekly parasha for 20 years, but as soon as they hear the word slavery, automatically their ears shut, can't believe it, and then even more, so you say, listen, the Jewish master owns these fields, wants to expand. He wants to be the Amazon of farming. He wants to be Walmart. He wants to create more employees. So he's got a few Canaanite slaves. He's got a few Jewish slaves. Each one is there for a specific reason. He says, listen, I want to make some more slaves. So I need to make some more Canaanite kids, raise them, and then they're going to become slaves. Automatically the person hears this, his liberal alarms go off. I can't believe it. This cannot be. It's clear verses in the Torah. Oh, so therefore it's not applicable? Wrong. 100% wrong. If we still had the Sanhedrin, we still had the Bet HaMikdash, we still had the domination that Am Yisrael had at the time of this, of the Torah, this would be back into law. Why? Because there's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, it's actually perfectly allowed today, just people don't realize it because they get a paycheck every 2 weeks. So they think that because they get a paycheck, that makes them different than the slaves. The slaves also got a paycheck. They got food, they got shelter, they got everything they needed. They have to be treated with a certain respect, which is not necessarily a promise at every company that you're getting a salary from. Many times people get a salary, but in order to get that salary, they have to forsake their own honor, they have to accept abuse. Sometimes even abuse that violates the law is silenced just for the sake of that salary. So stop kidding yourself and saying that slavery doesn't exist, and perhaps you may be one of them. But the point being is, if a person understands what the Torah here is saying, it's saying something that does not make sense, at least at first. Where this master that wants to create more slaves, he has a perfectly healthy young man that's single, telling him, listen, I'm willing to help you out. I'll make you 50 babies. Give me a Canaanite. Give me a whole fleet of Canaanites. Each one should be good to go in a week. Master says, no. Why not? You gave it to the other guy. Shmuley and Reuven over there, they're each married to a Jewish lady with 5-10 kids, but they're also with a Canaanite woman. So how come you give it to them and not me? You say, oh, because they're married. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense, at least at first. Now the truth is, Rabotai, when a person understands the Torah, they understand that everything has to have a reason. Some of those reasons are clearer to us, some of those reasons are less. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 63b, says, at the time of the Bet HaMikdash, when we had a fire in the image of a lion come down every day to consume the korban, the sacrifice. Huge fire, open miracles on a daily basis. No fly ever entered the Bet HaMikdash despite all the blood and the animals. Go to your local farm, go to your local meat store, you'll see flies, sometimes more than people. Bet HaMikdash full of dead animals, full of living animals. Not a single fly. Not one woman had a miscarriage. Go to any woman. Say the word miscarriage. Most likely she'll start crying, either because of her experience or somebody she knows. And it's always traumatizing and no man on planet Earth will ever understand. The time of the Bet HaMikdash, no miscarriage. None. All types of open miracles. For more, look at the Pirkei Avot, where there's a whole Mishnah discussing the different types of open miracles that happen at the time of the Bet HaMikdash. So, with all of these miracles, you would think, like people say today, why doesn't God just speak to us just like He did at Mount Sinai? People would stop sinning. This is the proof. Despite all of the miracles that we saw on a regular basis, even daily, Am Yisrael had people go to idol worship. So the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 63b says, how could it be that they went to idol worship? Don't they realize it's just wooden stones? They were smart people. Gemara says, of course they know it's wooden stones. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rab, the Jews knew that there's no substance to idol worship. So why do they do it? They just engaged in idol worship in order to permit for themselves overt immorality. In so many words, he wanted the non-Jewish girlfriend. He wanted to do whatever he wanted. He wanted to go to Cancun instead of going to the yeshiva. He wanted to go to Hawaii instead of going to Bet Knesset. He wanted to go with Christina instead of Sarah. Why? Christina has a mixed background. So he likes it. Yeah, but how can you do that? You went to yeshiva. Moshe Rabbeinu is your rabbi. How can you do it? You're right. I got to get all these people away from me. What does he do? He starts telling people he's a Messianic Jew, idol worshiper. You know, Messianic Jews, can't say it enough. They're simply Christians in disguise. They still worship Yoshke, they still read the New Testament and believe it's the Word of God. And needless to say, they still practice Christianity. They just have a so-called Jewish flavoring on it. It's like putting, kosher sauce on pig. So he says, I don't want the rabbis to come visit me anymore. I want to continue hanging out with Christina. I want to continue hanging out with Destiny. I want to continue hanging out with all of these girls. And I don't want nobody giving me Mussar. I don't want Rabbi Reuven to come tell me Mussar. I want to do whatever I want. So he tells him he's an idol worshiper. He's a Messianic Jew. He says, I'm still Jewish in my heart, but I pray to a man. The rabbis see this guy is dangerous. They run away from him. Why did he really do it? It wasn't because he believes in Yoshke. It wasn't believing because he believes in some statue. He wanted the non-Jewish girlfriend. What does that have to do with a Jewish slave? Very simple. Torah Kedusha tells us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the law for the people that he created. And he created the people, and therefore he knows them better than they know themselves. And he knows the young man with the hormones that go off through the roof. But he couldn't find a shidduch. He gave a shidduch resume. He sent it to the rabbi. He's doing whatever he can, but nobody wants him. Nobody wants him, or he doesn't want anybody, like one of these people, where no one is ever good enough for him. She's too fat, she's too skinny, she's too tall, she's too short, she's Ashkenazi, she's a Sephardi, she is this, she is that. No one's good enough for him. Rabbi, she has to be from the same nationality as me. Wait, so you're telling me that all of Am Yisrael is not good for you? Unless they are your nationality? No, it would just be easier. Easier what? To be alone and miserable for another 5 years? Habibi, you're getting old. You're getting old. Before you know it, you're going to become a senior citizen. Any wife that's going to marry you is going to have to feed you with a spoon. How much older are you going to get, Mr. Picky? Or better yet, sometimes women tell me, listen, Rabbi, I'm not ready to get married yet. What? I need a little bit more time for myself. Maybe make a little bit more money because I don't want to depend on no man. I want to have comfort. I want to be, in a good position. Judaism is expensive, Rabbi? That's the best line I've ever heard. I heard it from a very dear student of mine. I didn't even comment. Why? It was so bizarre for somebody to tell me Judaism is expensive as if I never knew what money was. I don't know. Somebody tells me, no, Rabbi, these things are expensive. What do you think? I eat man? It comes down to my house every day like they did to Moshe Rabbeinu? Anyway, people forget themselves sometimes. Why they're so busy and worked up with their own things, they forget what they say and how they say it. And sometimes they get all worked up with their life goals and missions. And they make mistakes by delaying one of the mitzvot. We learned from the Torah Kedusha, the first mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Adam HaRishon is make babies. Go build a Jewish family. Avraham Avinu was commanded to go kill his own son. What did he do? Vayakum baboker baboker. He woke up extra early in the morning to fulfill the will of Hashem. But people today, I'm not ready yet. I'm not sure if I'm mature enough yet because I'm only 22. And I'm only 18. And I'm only 39. And you know, I saw so many people get divorced. And I saw that the economy is tough. So I'm not sure if I want to do it. Or I'm not sure if he's really my type. You know, his nose is like this way. His stomach is like that way. His bank account is this way or that way. And I'm not really sure I really like the car. All types of shtuyot are forcing people to stay alone and miserable, but they don't realize it until they're senior citizens. I have some old people that I know from when I was a kid. They were beautiful people. Beautiful people. Guess what? Today they're ugly and alone. Why? They waited for the perfect one. When is the perfect one? Perfect one usually arrives when the perfect one doesn't want you anymore. Why? Simple. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away the blessing. You delayed my mitzvah. No mitzvah for you. No mitzvah. That's why the Gemara says you want to get married, lower your standards. But unfortunately, many times people say, listen, you're my favorite rabbi. You're my rabbi. But when the rabbi says something to them, listen, rabbi, I have to disagree. I have to disagree. Okay. Disagree. Fine. But stop saying stupid things like favorite, you are my rabbi. Why? Rabbi Ephraim tells me anything. Before he finishes the statement, I'm already working. I'm already doing something. Why? That's what a rabbi is. But people think that rabbis are friends, colleagues, maybe consultants. And that's why people have a lot of misfortune. Why? They don't know how to use the Torah in order to apply to their life. Why? Because they have a lot of different junk in their head coming from their ideology. And this place right here is one of them. Slavery. The Torah Kedusha was given to us by our Creator, who knows us better than we know ourselves. And he knew that the young man that's full of hormones, and he wants to find a girl, but he can't find a girl. Why? His shidduch resume is not up to par. His bank account is not up to par. Her bank account is not up to par. She's not good looking enough. She's not skinny enough. She's not this enough. And you know, some of these people that reject shidduchim, literally, they make me sick. I want to vomit when I never want to talk to them again after I see how they behave. Why? They have no manners, no class, no ethics, no nothing. And I can't believe these people say they watch Shurei Torah. But nonetheless, the slave, same thing happened to him. So what does it have to do with him? Simple. The slave says, listen, I haven't found my bashert. I haven't found the tzadikah I'm going to be sarayim menofim. I haven't found it yet. But that doesn't mean that I want to stay celibate. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go steal. Make sure I get caught. So that way, someone's going to, I'm going to become a slave. And my favorite job in slavery is going to be not the farming, not the crops. No, my favorite job is going to be to create slaves. I'm going to be the best slave creator in the world. He comes, his whole plan is all worked up. Just like his shidduch resume is all worked up. He has the perfect picture. He's posing like he's on some Vogue magazine. And no buyer, so he's disappointed. Perhaps my perfect wife hasn't been created well yet. So he goes, he becomes a slave. And he arrives at the Jewish home, and he says, okay, I'm ready for work. The master says, yeah, good. The farmer's over there. Go take care of the cows. Go take care of the sheep. The horses need all the manure to be cleaned out. It's like, listen, I got it. I'm going to do all those things because obviously I'm a slave. I want to be a good slave. I want to be your favorite slave. But when is the slave-making job? When do I get promoted for that? No, there is no promotion. What do you mean? I thought that's what it is. He goes, no, not for you. Why? Because you didn't get married. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu already know that your mind is so sick that you are willing to become a slave just to make a sin. Just like Am Yisrael was willing to say they're idolaters and even literally worship an idol they didn't believe in. Why? Just to go with the non-Jewish girl. And therefore, the Torah cannot hurt itself. You came single, you stay single for another 6 years. Welcome to slavery. Now, the guy that has a family, he gets the promotion or demotion. He's the producer of slaves. How does the Torah explain that one? Simple. We're not expecting him to sign up for this sin. And since he's the property of the master has the right to use him for what he needs, even if that means using his seed. What about the fact that it's forbidden for a Jew to be with a non-Jew? You're right, that so long as the Jew is free. But once he is a slave, he no longer has the same rights, the same freedom, and he's only obligated to do the mitzvot like a woman. And therefore, this issue is not an issue for him. It's not a sin for him. But when does this become problematic? When this Shmuli, when this Reuven, he falls in love with the Canaanite. And he decides, listen, I know it's time for me to leave, but me and Martha over here, from the Messianic Jewish church, mosque, we like each other, we love each other. We got 67 babies together. So I don't want to leave. Well, listen, you have to leave. It's your term has ended. No, but I'm only going to leave if you let me go with her. And my kids, they're not your kids. They're the property of the master. Well, this is not fair. Well, if you want to stay, you'll be a slave for life. You'll be a slave for life. And he decides that Martha and her little puppies are worth it. What's the process, the procedure then? They take him to the door, put his ear against the door. Some say the doorpost, it could be either one. And they make a hole in his ear. You know, like some of these people of this generation do. Not the ones from Africa where this has been their tradition for the last however many hundreds of years. They're still in the third world country. I'm talking about the people from here, from America, from modern society, where they decide one day to just cut off part of their ear. Not to make an earring or beautify themselves, but literally it's a thing to uglify yourself, to make yourself more strange. They make huge holes in their ears, like for whatever reason or another, somehow this part of their ear is bothering them so much they want to make a hole so you can see through it. Maybe they're going to hang their earphones on it instead of listen to the earphones. Not really sure what the whole purpose of it is, but people do this, and they make bigger holes and bigger holes. In my generation, if you got a tattoo, you were the cool kid. If you got sleeves, wow, this guy is a rebel. Today, people are tattooing their face. Guy shows up to an interview. You're not even sure what color he is, what his background is, what he even looks like. All you're seeing is all types of drawings on his eyes, on his face. Literally, people walking around like this. Unbelievable. Surely there was always strange people in the past, here and there. Today it's standard. People are literally putting tattoos on their eyelids. Not sure what happened, but nonetheless, this is what's happening. So, they're not new to this idea. These types of things existed in the world of idolatry in the past. And the Jewish slave got himself a stylish hole in his head, hole in his ear. Extremely painful process. Why? Because he wants to stay. He wants to stay married to Martha and the 57 pugs. Instead of going back to be a Jew with his Jewish wife and his kids. No. He wants to be with the Canaanites. Yeah, but your wife, what about her? Okay, I'll keep the Jewish wife also, but we're going to stay permanently under this slavery. Now, the question is, what's with the whole? What's with the whole? Just like we had an answer for the first, the Torah has an answer for the second. The young man that thought of himself as a opportunity that he's going to take because he couldn't find a wife, his dreams were squashed because he's not allowed to have that position. The other man that was married and forgot what his position is, forgot that this is the way of the world, especially at the time where slavery was common practice. And in fact, throughout all of the histories, one of my dear Talmidim told me the other day, throughout all of history, we never heard of a rebellion by people that were slaves of the Jews. Even though this is obviously many, many years ago, point being is you don't see any rebellion. Why? Because they got treated really well. You weren't allowed to abuse them, rape them, or any of the things that people do today, even to their employees. So when the slave got carried away and wanted to stay a slave, they made a hole in his ear in order to not only show him he's making a mistake, but he's making a mistake that he should have known it's a mistake. Because last week we heard at Mount Sinai, one of the 10 commandments is don't steal. You stole and therefore you became a slave. You had 6 years to think about that and do tshuva. Instead of doing tshuva, what did you do? You became a bigger criminal. Instead of going back and being excited to go back to serving God better than what you did before, what do you want to do? You want to serve man. For what? For the sake of some girl. And that's, Rabotai, again, in a politically correct, liberal world, none of this is acceptable. But that's also something that most people are not going to be able to face, that it's still present in the world today, but in a much worse way, not in the way of the Torah. Next, we see another place where if a person kills another person by accident, they are saved by being allowed to go to the cities of refuge. Because if they don't go to the cities of refuge, the family of the person they killed by accident is permitted to kill them. Now, the question a person should ask themselves is the question we all started. Obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that this person is going to kill another person accidentally. Why doesn't he stop it? Why does he allow this guy to kill some young kid by accident? Why does he allow this guy to kill some woman that's a mother of 5 kids by accident? Why does he allow these things to happen if he knows it's going to happen? People are going to cry. The kids are not going to have a father anymore. It's going to be a tragedy. Why does Hashem allow such a thing? It's a big question. We have to answer that question. Before we go to that question, let's see if we have some more. Now, if a man is one of these seducers that takes advantage of an innocent girl at the time of the Torah, this would be a very, very expensive act. Where the Torah says that if a man will seduce a virgin who is not arusa, meaning she's not married, and he will lie with her, he shall surely keep her for himself as a wife. Meaning, you decided to do what you wanted to do, now you have to marry her. So a person looking at it is, what? She doesn't have rights? No, of course she does. Why? She has to agree. But obviously if she agreed to the first act, it's very likely she'll agree to the second, to stay with him. So that's it? No. Torah continues and says, if the father will not want to give her to him, to this seducer, so what happens? He's sky free? No. He has to pay her the ketubah. He has to give her money because of what he did. He has to give her money. And then the Torah says some other things. Anyone that will lie with an animal gets a death penalty. One who slaughters and brings sacrifices to a false god, to an idol, also executed. Person that causes oppression towards the converts, cheats them in business, takes advantage of them, reminds them of their past in order to torment them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says one of the scariest statements in the entire Torah, chapter 22, where he says, you shall neither aggrieve nor oppress the convert, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall not persecute any widow or orphan. If you will persecute him, beware. For if he will cry out before me, I shall surely heed his outcry, and my anger will become intense, and I shall kill you by the sword, and your wives will be widows, and your children orphans. HaShem Yishmor v'Yatzil. So for all of those people that are against converts, you should talk to God. Try to come up with some type of agreement of who runs the world, because apparently he doesn't agree with you. Not you and your community, or it's takana. So we see all these things here. Some of them we can understand, some of them harder to understand, but everything has an explanation. So what's the explanation before we start off with, go to the big question of before? The guy that died, accidentally, not on purpose. Why did Hashem allow it? Obviously, if Hashem knew that the golden calf sin is going to happen, and he let it happen, he's letting this happen too, but if he knew that the golden calf is going to happen, he knew that this guy's going to kill his friend by accident. So why did he let it happen? Now you can say, wait, free choice. No, free choice is if he wanted to murder him. He wants to make a sin, let him make a sin. We're talking about an accident. He didn't want to kill his friend. So therefore a person will say, well, why did God do this to me? How come he did this to me? How come he did that to me? That's where a person needs to understand how to deal with the things he doesn't understand. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu that if you do not do what this angel says, you violate my law, and the angel is going to punish you. But if you do fulfill my Torah, I will bless you. I will protect you. I will hate those that hate you. I'll fight your wars. No woman will have a miscarriage. You'll be prosperous. You'll win all the wars. All types of wonderful things. The greatest blessings you can possibly imagine. And he says, one of the extraordinary things, and I shall send my fear before you, and I shall confuse the entire people against whom you are coming to make war. Meaning, not only will you be allowed to win the war once you get there, but even before you get there, I'll cause the enemy to be confused. The Arizal was gifted this gift. In the introduction to Shar Gilgulim, different things are written about the Arizal. It says that the Arizal had the ability of Makeba Sanvirim. What's Makeba Sanvirim? Makeba Sanvirim, he can simply look at somebody or put his hand up in whatever way he did it, and the person will become confused. Meaning somebody can come and try to kill him. He just looks at him, and the person becomes confused, doesn't know where he is anymore. Whoa, wow, what am I? There's a nice building here, this yeshiva. Wow, what am I doing here? Oh, why do I have a knife? And an axe? Oh, wow. I don't know. All right, nice seeing you all. Thank you for inviting me. And the guy leaves. And all the soldiers are looking at him. Hey, Sergeant, are we killing all these Jews? Kill them? Why? We gotta go. We gotta go farming. Farming? Well, we're in the middle of a war. Nah, no war. We're farmers. Confuse the guy completely. Why? Makeba Sanvirim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you follow the Torah, I can even give you that ability. I can give you that ability. So now you're asking the same God that knows the future, knows that we're going to sin. Why did he allow this guy to die accidentally? Why? The Gemara in Masechet Makot, page 10b, shows us how to understand what we don't understand. It says, listen, there is no such thing as an accident. There is no such thing as a happenstance. There is no such thing as something that's out of the control of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If it happened, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a hearing at the Bet Din of Shamayim. At the Bet Din of Shamayim, they evaluated everything you can possibly evaluate. Not only the person's life in this world, but his previous life. Not only his previous life, but his wife's life, and her previous life, and his kids' life, and their previous life, and the neighbors, and the victims, and the perpetrator, and the police, and everyone that's involved in the story, even his long-lost friend from 20 years ago that he hasn't heard of or heard from, but who's going to hear that he died and be upset for a moment about it, even he is part of the calculation. And therefore, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu paskins death penalty, or a miracle, and he's saved, or he's going to become rich, or he's going to lose, or whatever it is, that means everything was calculated. Who's going to suffer, who's going to get hurt, who, what, when, and how, everything is taken into consideration. Because he's El Rachum V'Chanun. He's the God that's full of mercy. But that does not mean that he just lets go of things. So how come he let this guy accidentally die? That's because Rabotai Yekarim, the Gemara in Masechet Makot, says this guy that got killed, he may look like he's an innocent, nice guy that goes to shul on time, at least once a week. He looks like he gives tzedakah at least once in a while. He looks like he's a decent person that works hard. But he died all of a sudden. Now the only memory of him is that we have to make a campaign for him so his kids can eat. Why did he die, Hashem? Why did you do it? Simple. This guy, he killed somebody in his previous life. He killed somebody in his previous life. Intentionally. He killed him. And everyone knew that the guy died. They saw the guy died. And everyone knew it must be him. He was really the only one in the room. But they couldn't give him a death penalty. Why? There's no witnesses. Without witnesses, without a warning, don't kill him, no death penalty. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to deal with it. So the guy that died, he himself is a murderer. Okay, fine. So he got a death penalty. But what about the guy that killed him? Now he has to live with this agony. He has to live with this agony that, man, can't believe I killed this guy by accident. I got to go to the city over here. Says the Gemara, Masechet Makot, he also killed somebody. He also killed somebody by accident in the last life. But there was no witnesses. So they couldn't tell him, listen, go to the city of refuge. Why? There's no witness. We don't know for sure you killed him. Looks like you did, possibly, but there's no witnesses. So no one's allowed to kill you. And you don't have to go to the city of refuge. Why? If there's no witnesses, we can't know for sure. This is not, the court show on TV where we're looking at evidence. Evidence number one, somebody sees it. Somebody sees it, and that somebody's a kosher person. And no conflicting witnesses come. Why? If somebody says, listen, he killed him. I saw it. And he's really a false witness. They ask him all the questions. And he says, listen, this day, this place, this time, he wore this shirt. I saw it. And then all of a sudden, another witness comes. He's a liar. He didn't see nothing. I don't know if this guy killed or he didn't kill, but I know he's a liar. This witness is a liar. How do you know? Because on the day of the actual murder, that he says he saw him, kill this guy in New York, he wasn't even in New York himself. How do you know? Because he was with me on the blackjack table in Las Vegas. Oh, so he's a liar. So guess what happens? Now the guy that was the accused killer is released and the death penalty is given to the false witness. Death penalty is going to the false witness. Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin. The Jewish law is as precise as can be. Mercy is given to people that deserve mercy. And wrath is given to the people that deserve wrath. Why? Because it's the law of God. So now the person that killed in this previous life intentionally, but there was no witnesses, he deserved the death penalty. The person that killed accidentally in his previous life, but it was unintentional, but there was no witnesses. He deserved to get kicked out of the city and go to the city of refuge. But since no witnesses, he can't. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world with complete precision and justice. And therefore he reincarnates them into a whole new life. They come into a whole new life, into a new parents. And the parents raise them up and change their diapers and feed them and yell at them and bathe them and do all the different things to raise them. And they say, oh, you're my favorite kid and I love you and pookie, mookie, tookie, all that good stuff. And he grows up and he gets married and he does all of these wonderful things and he even makes a few friends and a few enemies. And one day he's dead. Why? Because you killed somebody in the previous life and you deserve the death penalty. But since there was no witnesses, in this world, you didn't get a death penalty. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the witness. He saw it. And therefore, measure for measure punishment, you had to die because of what you did. You deserve a death penalty, now you got it. And the guy that accidentally killed somebody and there was no witnesses, the punishment was supposed to be for you to get kicked out of the city. Couldn't happen in the previous life, now it's happening. You killed the guy and now you have to get kicked out of the city. But what about the anguish of suffering, killing somebody? Yeah, you deserve that for doing it in the previous life. You deserve it for the previous life. Meaning everything is measured, everything is just, everything is perfect. There is no mistakes. And any time a person runs into a place in the Torah where their liberal mentality or their simple ignorance does not allow them to understand what the Torah says or accept it, you should know. Rule number one, God gave us the Torah, not a man. And therefore, it's not open for discussion. It's open for questions, but not for discussion. You're allowed to ask as many questions as you want if you truly want the answer. But once there's an answer, it's not up for debate. Oh, I disagree, I agree. No such thing. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, I know about the golden calf. I know about the golden calf that Am Yisrael, my children, are going to do. And I'm telling you about it. Why? Because although I know I'm not going to stop them, they have free choice. They're going to suffer the consequences. But before they lose their mind in realizing what the consequences are, I want you to know also that despite those consequences, there's also hope. There's also a light at the end of the tunnel. What? When you follow the Torah, when everyone does Teshuva, when everyone does the will of HaShem, you should know, I will bless you to such an extent that your enemies will be afraid of you. Your wives will never lose a baby. All of you will be fruitful. All of you will have blessing and sustenance. All of you will be in great position. And therefore, even though I know that you will make a mistake, I already look forward to when you're going to do tshuva. And because it's so beautiful to see my nation coming back to me after they've made a mistake, I will never get in their way of making mistakes. Because once they do tshuva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, just like he said to Avraham, now I know you fear me, but also, now I know you love me. And BeEzrat HaShem, each and every single one of us will know that the law of the Torah is emet. It's the ultimate truth. Whether it agrees with your ideology or not is simply a measure of where your ideology is. It's not where the Torah is. Everything that's in the Torah is good. When the Torah says it's good. Everything in the Torah is bad. When the Torah says it's bad. There is no changes. If the Torah says that LGBTQ is forbidden, it's evil, it's horrible, then that's what it is. It doesn't change because of society. If the Torah says that when a woman walks around immodest, HaShem runs away from her, and with HaShem comes all the blessings. He runs away, so does the blessings run away. All of a sudden, your husband thinks you're ugly, even though you're beautiful in the eyes of everyone else. All of a sudden, your kids don't want to listen to you, even though everyone else thinks you're smart. All of a sudden, your friends don't want to call you back, even though you're a very friendly person. Why? Blessings went away when your modesty went away. All of a sudden, a person that's making millions of dollars loses his fulfillment. He doesn't feel fulfilled. He wants to kill himself. Why? If you have millions of dollars, you can pretty much buy things that no one else has. Why do you want to die? I don't know. I'll tell you why. You have no blessing. When you don't have a Kadosh Baruch Hu in your life giving you blessing, there is no purpose to life that can be achieved. No matter how much money you have, no matter how much stuff you have. And so long as a person makes their own ideology superior to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's truth, as long as a person makes their own desire, their own agenda, their own goals and ambitions superior to their obligations in the Torah, they have themselves a problem that sometimes like a cancer, Hashem Yishmo, that sits there silently and painlessly until it's too late. The goal of all of these shiurim, the goal of each parasha, the goal of each Mishnah and each Gemara is to wake us up from our falsehood, from our shekel that's telling us, go do the opposite of God. Because the last time somebody did it and you saw it, they didn't die. And that's why the Gemara says, even though the 4 different types of death penalties and the makot, the whippings, that would be delivered on the sinners of Am Yisrael are no longer something we can practice because we do not have a Sanhedrin. The punishments were not canceled. Our ability as humans to implement them is no longer possible because we don't have a Sanhedrin. We don't have the schut, the merit to do it. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu vouches, he says, I will do it. I will be the judge. I will be the jury. I will be the executioner. Why? Because it's my Torah that I'm defending. And when a person follows the Torah, no one in the world can hurt them. When a person makes a new Torah, may HaShem have mercy on us. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the enemy to remind us of our Torah and our truth. And that's what Rabbi Yisrael Misalan said when he heard about the New Testament type of Shulchan Aruch that came from the Reform community a couple of hundred years ago, where they wrote a new Shulchan Aruch that allowed intermarriage, LGBTQ, and all types of other perversions. Rabotai Karim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a law, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has clear instructions. Agree or disagree, always remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave these laws, not a human being. Whether you understand or you don't understand, it's time you learn to understand what to do with the things you don't understand. Which is, it doesn't matter whether you understand. It doesn't matter whether you agree. If God said it, na'aseh v'nishma. We do, and then we'll understand. With that being said, BeEzrat HaShem, now you guys can ask some questions. BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. See? In the past week, I know 2 Yidden who died of sickness outside of Israel. I don't know if they were tzaddikim, but they were definitely religious. Is it only me, but are many Yidden dying from sickness recently? Could the Rav explain if my observation is correct? As far as people die every single day. Approximately 250,000 people die every single day. Some of them are Jews sometimes, and some of them are non-Jews sometimes. The point is that people die every single day, and as I mentioned today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the righteous judge, and he decides who lives and who dies every single day, every single year during the Rosh Hashanah. There's a judgment that people are going to die. How are they going to die? HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously uses his endless supply of tools. The Gemara says there's 903 different ways for a person to die, meaning that there's 903 different ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses for a person to die. And which one he chooses is obviously all based on his judgment. But if a person dies with a lot of suffering before they die, this is actually good for them because that suffering wipes out a lot of their sins. As far as many times tzaddikim, before they die, can suffer for an extended period of time and to wipe out their small account of sins in order for them to go straight to Gan Eden. But the point is that as far as people are dying all the time, and sometimes we notice it, sometimes we don't. So what's the lesson truly to be learned here? Is that when a person came, one of the Talmidim of the Chafetz Chaim came to the Chafetz Chaim and told him about his visit to India. The Chafetz Chaim kept insisting on finding out what's happening, not in India, in Africa. The Chafetz Chaim asked, what is the situation over there, how everyone is doing? And he said, no, the community is great. He goes, no, I'm not talking about the community only. I'm talking about the Goyim. How are the non-Jews doing? And the Talmid asked him, why does the Rav care about how the Goyim are doing. He says, don't you know that any time HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends a tsunami in a different country, that's a rebuke for Am Yisrael to do tshuva? I gave it to them because they sinned, but it's for you to learn from that it could have happened and should have happened to you with the sins that you're making. So when a person sees that there are people around him that are dying, the message is, why are you still alive? Meaning, a person needs to use that knowledge and that reality as that HaShem took you into account when this person died. He evaluated everyone that is associated with these people that died. And of course, if these people were decent people, that means that everyone they were associated with liked them. And therefore they suffered as a result of this person's death. They cried over it, they're miserable over it, they missed them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu took that into account, that you're going to be miserable because of this guy's death. You're going to be sad. You're going to lose money because he was your business partner. You're going to, miss your chavruta, whatever it is. And he took that into account. Why did he take that into account? Because he's the perfect judge. The bigger question a person needs to ask is, why did I deserve it? He got it because he had his own judgment on Rosh Hashanah. But I also got to suffer. Why? Because I also need to do tshuva. So before the same thing happens to me, I have to fix myself. I have to do tshuva. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing me this in order for me to learn from it, in order for me to do tshuva. Because it could easily happen to me, chas v'shalom. And that's why a person needs to listen to what Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos said to his Talmidim. Do tshuva before you die. And he said to him, Rebbe, does anybody know when they're going to die? He says, exactly. That's why you must do tshuva every single day. Because every single day you have to think, this may be my last day. This may be my last day. What's going to count after that day that's the last day? Only the mitzvot that I do. Only the good deeds that I do. That's what's going to count. That's what I can take with me that's good. At the same token, the sins that I've made or want to make, that also comes with me, but that's not going to help me, that's going to hurt me. Every day do tshuva. Every day repent. Every day say I'm sorry for the mistakes. Every day make yourself better. Why? It may be your last day. It may be your last day. And that's how a Jew has to think. Every day is a day to do tshuva because every day may very well be the last day. And if you saw somebody close to you that died, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to start thinking like that. Slavery is a form of evil. It changed its face, so many shapes, same like any other sin. Really same as idolatry. This is 100% wrong. As we explained in the shiur, the slavery of the Torah is not evil. Slavery of the Torah is actually one of the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu instituted in the world. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu produced it, it cannot be evil. As far as people doing evil things, that's always been the case. Since Adam HaRishon, people did evil. But if it's not, that's not making everything the same. It's like saying, all guns are going to kill people. Not necessarily true. Some guns will never be used for actually killing people, but they may be used for protection. All cars are bad because there was car accidents. Yes, but some of these cars will save lives and bring a person to a hospital to save his life. Making general statements is not the right way. It's not the right approach, especially when it comes to Torah. Kosher slavery is acceptable. Kosher slavery is acceptable, like even a parent-children relationship is a form of slavery, and even a rabbi-student relationship is a form of slavery. Again, my dear friend, it's wrong. What you're saying is wrong. I'm not sure where you're getting this stuff, but it's wrong. Kosher slavery being acceptable is not the right approach. Who asked you if you think it's acceptable? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the rules. It doesn't matter whether you judge it as acceptable or not. It doesn't matter if you judge it as acceptable or not. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says the truth, and that's it. It's emet, not acceptable. No one's asking for agreement. And to compare it to parent-child or rabbi-student is also not the right approach, because a parent is not enslaving their child, because a parent loves their child many times without any conditions. Without a conditions, a parent is going to feed that kid even though the kid can't do anything in return. When the kid's an infant and can't even protect itself, the parent will wake up in the middle of the night to feed him. How is that slavery? How is that slavery? You say, oh yeah, but once the kid gets older, they what? Because they wash the dishes, because they mow the lawn, that makes them a slave? No, that makes them a kid that's paying their dues and honoring their parents. That's not slavery. That's fulfilling a mitzvah of honoring your parents. Honoring your parents, if a person knew how much obligation they have for their parents to fulfill that mitzvah, they know that it's certainly not slavery. Why? Because a slave is someone that does not have a choice. Whereas a child always has a choice. So when you fulfill the mitzvah, you get rewarded. When a slave fulfills his job, he does not get rewarded. Doesn't get rewarded. Same concept when it comes to rabbi-student. A rabbi is there to help the student. Is there to help the student. But if the student rejects the rabbi, then the rabbi is no longer a rabbi. The rabbi is empowered by the student being a student. Not by the rabbi knowing certain information. Because even if the rabbi knows a lot of information, but the student decides to arrive at their own conclusions and listen to their own logic and their own understanding, they make themselves their own rabbi. Well, guess what? That rabbi is no different than any other major scholar that ever lived or any other average Jew. Why? Because you're not listening to them. Same thing when people sometimes, like I said before, sometimes people tell me, oh, you're my rabbi, you're my rabbi. But the moment that I give them any type of guidance, I don't agree with you. Oh, okay. So stop calling me a rabbi. Why? Because if a person understood their obligations to the rabbi says jump, person jumps. Rabbi says go, you go. Not because the rabbi is a overlord over the person, but rather because the person knows that the rabbi's interest is in line with yours. He wants your best. And sometimes he knows more about your best than you do. Why? Because he's looking at it from a Torah perspective. Not from a logical perspective that people look at themselves. When a person evaluates their life, they look at it from their own logical perspective that sometimes is full of things that are distracting, like lust, like ambitions, like desires, like addictions. But when the rabbi gives you guidance, he's giving you guidance based on the Torah perspective. In so many words, he's giving you what the Torah says. So when he's telling you something, you have to do it, because in essence, he's telling you this is what Torah is telling you right now. So when you don't listen to the rabbi, not only is he not a rabbi anymore, but you're also not following the Torah. You also don't believe in Chachamim that are representing the Torah. And that's one of the problems that people have. They'll tell somebody, I'm the rabbi, until the rabbi is, crossing the line, as if there's such a line. And that's why I tell people, that many times that, people ask, well, can you be my rabbi? Me being your rabbi, me not being your rabbi is all based on you. It's not based on me. If you watch every one of my lectures, you study extensively all the things that we've said, you follow all of it, and when you ask for guidance, no matter whether you agree or disagree with what I said to you, you follow it, then I become your rabbi. But if you're going to debate and disagree and simply not follow and go shopping around and all the different things, then stop wasting my time. Why? Because I don't have a benefit in being a rabbi for anybody. The benefit is the people's. So if I'm already going to take time to invest into a person, then at the very least they need to do their part. But if they're simply not listening, it's simply a waste of time that I can use for other people. And that's why, generally speaking, the people that have succeeded the most in learning from any rabbi, and I've seen from my own personal experience, from my students all over the world, there's all types of people, Baruch Hashem, tens of thousands of people that listen to my shiurim. But the most successful ones are the ones that listened and did what I said. Not because I said it, but because I'm guiding them based on the Torah. If a monkey said the same thing and it's based on the Torah, it would be true also. And the people that held to it without fighting, without debating, just simply they do it, they succeed. And the people that say, no, but I'm not sure, I'm not that, unfortunately, their success was limited, much more limited. In some cases, they had many failures. It all depends on what degree of rejection they had. So it's important for a person to make themselves a rabbi, as the Torah says in Mishnah and Masechet Avot, multiple times. In the 6th Mishnah it says it already in the 1st chapter, and multiple other times it says it across the Shas. It's an obligation for a Jew to have a rabbi, so much so that God hates a person that does not have a rabbi. He's referring to Jews though. Jews are obligated to have a rabbi. Non-Jews don't have an obligation to have a rabbi. They certainly need to have the guidance of the Torah, but they don't have an obligation to have a rabbi. Some are fortunate to have one, some are not. But the key is to know that a Jew is obligated to have one because the rabbi is the one that's going to get you to Gan Eden. You're not going to get yourself there by yourself. But if you're not following what the rabbis say, and you're simply just following whatever you understand, and you think that you understand just as well as someone's been studying for a long time and has guidance and has a rabbi themselves and so on, unfortunately, you're stunting your own growth, and that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people do it where they give the rabbi the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the laws they have no concept of, like, their kashrut of their food or their dishes, different types of shlom bayit advice from time to time. But, many times the bigger decisions in life, they don't even consider talking to the rabbi. And if they do, if the rabbi doesn't say what they want, they simply just don't listen. And that's unfortunate because that means that they don't really have a rabbi. Many people pretend to have a rabbi though. They can even call their rabbi whenever they want, but it's not really their rabbi. So that's one of the things that a person needs to understand. If you're going to arrive at certain conclusions, make sure that those conclusions are based on what our masoret is, what our tradition is, which is from Moshe Rabbeinu to Yeshua ben Nun, Yeshua to the Zkenim, the elders to the prophets to the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, down all of the sages, the Zugot, the Tanaim, the Amoraim, the Savoraim, the Geonim, the Rishonim, the Achronim, and even the local rabbi that you have, and the rabbis and Talmidei Chachamim of our generation, you have that tradition. But if you're simply just arriving at conclusions based on your own logic, it can be very, very problematic, and unfortunately it's usually one of the key doors to heresy. It's initially it looks like intellect and cleverness, but eventually it turns out to be heresy. So a person has to be careful with conjuring up their own logic that's not in line with what the Masoret is. Sorry, I didn't mean to answer questions for you. I'm just trying to do Kiruv as well. There's a time and a place for to do Kiruv. It's not on it's not during a shiur or during the time where people are supposed to be learning. This is not the platform. What's the name of the concept? He said when people are talking about the Arizal putting up their hands and confusing the enemy. Makibas and Vilim. Thank you, Rabbi, for doing your lectures in English. It's really a blessing. Baruch HaShem. By that reasoning, none of the 6 million in the Holocaust kept the Torah since they were hurt. I have no idea how you arrived at that conclusion. Is makeup considered immodest in Orthodox Judaism? Depends. There's makeup that's very immodest, not just according to Orthodox Judaism, but according to society. Meaning even the immodest people know it's immodest. And then there's makeup that's perfectly fine and even recommended to be used. It's all with class. If a woman is using her clothing and makeup in order to make herself beautiful for a husband, to be attractive to her husband and not attracting to society, then there's no problem with it. But if she's trying to get the attention of every Steve, Joe, and Smith out there, then obviously there's a problem. But as far as using makeup, there's no problem with using makeup. The vast majority of Jewish women, we wear makeup and there's no problem with it. Since women cannot be sold as slaves, I wonder what happened to them if they stole or unable. Not sure how you arrive at that conclusion. Women, became, it's in the Torah actually in this week. It's in the Torah this week where the father could actually sell his daughter and she becomes a maidservant. She becomes a maidservant even as a kid, but by the time she hits puberty, if owner does not want to marry her or have his son marry her, then she's relieved. She's relieved from that obligation. But certainly there is maidservants, which is female slaves. What is the technical difference between the term mishpat and din? Mishpat is the law. Din is, in essence, the execution of the law, if you will. But certainly there's more details. Why can't a Kohen marry a convert or a woman with a promiscuous past, since those who repented are on a higher level? Since those who repented are on a higher level, wouldn't it make sense for the woman on a higher level to marry the Kohanim rather than, that's again, you're rationalizing things based on your logic. And the Torah said otherwise. So the Torah says that a Kohen cannot just not marry a convert or not marry a woman that had a promiscuous past, but also a Kohen cannot marry a widow, a divorcee. It's not just that there's a prejudice against promiscuous women or against women that are converts, but rather the Kohen is a specific part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's nation, Am Yisrael, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants them to only be with specific people. This is the rules of God. And again, even though a person may not agree or disagree, whatever it is, you have to always default to the fact, I don't have to understand everything that God did. I have to follow it. Now, as far as rationalizing that a person that is a Baal Teshuva is higher than someone that hasn't sinned, you're right, but it doesn't apply to this, because the Baal Teshuva is certainly elevating their neshama in a certain level at this point by doing tshuva, by doing good things, but you can't excuse the fact that their body sinned, and that cannot be taken away. The body already did something. And the Torah says that once the body did such and such act with a forbidden person, the Kohen cannot marry them. But what's wrong with the rest of the of Am Yisrael? I'm not really sure why people are always obsessed with marrying Kohanim. It's very strange that it's Mayim Gnuvim Im Taku, stolen water are always sweeter somehow, even though it's still water. Generally speaking, it's not a exclusion just for the Kohen to marry these couple of people. There's other people who's also not allowed to marry, but there's also the same concept for the rest of Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is not allowed to marry whoever they want, whenever they want. There are certain people they're also not allowed to marry. The key is to know is that there is a lot more things that are permissible in the Torah than there are forbidden. And therefore a person, should focus on the things that they're permissible to do, that they're allowed to do, and not harp on the fact, but I don't have that one thing, because that's more of a immature child mentality where, the one toy that, that is out of reach, that's the one he wants to play with, even though he has 500 other toys. Or the two kids fight over a stick. They fight over a stick and they all beat up each other over a stick. And as soon as the one of them wins and the other one goes home crying, The one that's left with the stick doesn't want to play with the stick anymore. He throws it away. So why'd you fight over the stick? Because it's immature. And that's how people are sometimes with a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They're immature babies. Oh, but how come this is not allowed? Why does a Kadosh Baruch Hu have to explain himself to you? He says no. Yeah, no. But again, remember, it's not no like, he's telling us where everything is not allowed. He's just telling you specifically, I have created my world and my people in a certain fashion. And therefore, I want them to follow a certain set of instructions. Sort of like a combination lock. If you have a combination lock and you have all 5 digits to open the combination lock, that may not be enough. Why? Because the combination lock doesn't want you to just put the proper digits to open it. It wants you to spin a certain way right, a certain way left, a certain way up, down, whatever it wants you to do in order for that combination to work. That's why our prayers, for example, for the Levana every month, where you have part of the prayer we read regularly like we do others, and then part of the prayer, all of a sudden we have to read it 3 times or 7 times. What? 1 is not enough? Hashem didn't hear the first 2 times, I have to read it 3 times? No, that's the combination lock. With those specific words, you have to spin it 3 times. And those specific words, you have to spin it 7 times. Why? Because that's the code to open the gates of heaven. That's the will of Hashem. So when it comes to the Kohanim, or it comes to the converts, or it comes to the divorcee, or it comes to the mamzer, or it comes to any part of Am Yisrael, a person must know HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a perfect combination for each and every single one, how they can achieve their perfection. The more you follow those instructions, the better your path will be. The more a person tries to spend their energy to find a way to make it possible, the more they're simply wasting their energy and their gift. And many times people do that, where they harp on one particular thing and they're not willing to move forward. Like some people, they don't like the Zohar, so they make their life's, spiritual service fighting against the Zohar. Fighting it, instead of using all of their time to learn more Gemara, more Poskim, more Chachamim, more this, well, they want to fight. Or others have a problem with Hasidut. Or others have a problem with Ashkenazim. Others have a problem with Sfaradim. Everybody has a problem with somebody. They make it their life's work to spend it on this one thing. In reality, this is a mitzvah from a Satan. Why? Because Satan wants you to, use all your energy for this one thing. Just harp on the fact that there is discrimination between Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. Use all your energy. Tell people change. It's not fair that the Ashkenazim have this and that. It's not fair that the Sfaradim are treated this and that. Use all your energy for that, the Satan says. Why? Because if you're using all your energy for that, you're not going to learn Torah. If you're using all your energy for that, then you're not going to fulfill the Torah. So people harp on all these things thinking they're doing the service of God, but in reality, they're not doing the service of anybody except for Satan. This is also the reason why one of the key things that Rabbi Yaron taught me early on, when I said, okay, let's make more shulim about Mashiach, more shulim about this one particular topic. He said, no, we go and we cover the entire Torah. We'll talk a little about this, a little bit about that. Okay, let's just make all the shulim about Tikkun HaBrit. No. Make shulim sometimes about Tikkun HaBrit, sometimes Parashat Shavua, sometimes this, sometimes that. Okay, let's fill all of our fights against the Whigs. No. Sometimes we fight against the Whigs, sometimes we fight against this, sometimes we fight against that. Whatever is needed, that's what we do. Why? Because if you harp all of your energy on one thing, it becomes an obsession. That's an unhealthy obsession, and it stops being the will of God. It stops being the missions to sanctify God. It becomes the mission to win. The mission to, figure out a way, a new way. And as the Chazon Ish said, he used cleverly a Mishnah. It says, Chadash asur min Torah. Anything that's new is forbidden. This is obviously talking about something else in the Torah, but in essence, it's a statement in the Torah. Point is that on the Mishnah. The point is that a person is constantly trying to Revitalize Judaism as if Judaism needs revitalization. Renew Judaism. Reform Judaism. Judaism is perfect as it always has been. And a person has to acclimate themselves and adjust themselves to the Torah, not the other way around. And if he has a problem or she has a problem with one thing, fine, you have a problem with one thing. Learn how to understand the things you don't understand and move on and go deal with the other things that are your responsibilities. Don't let one thing be the make or break. Follow the Torah and you'll be fine. How can a person help themselves who is trying to do tshuva and be observant, but then a month later they go back to their old ways over and over again? Of course, a person has to not only do tshuva, at first, but they have to continue doing tshuva. Every time they fail, they have to fix themselves and figure out a way how to not put themselves in the same situation. Failing is part of the journey. The key is not to fail the same failure over and over again. It's just like in business. Everyone is going to fail on the way to the top. Everyone is going to fail on the way to the top. The key is not to make the same mistakes over and over again. Where if, let's say, for example, you're in the business world and you did a partnership with somebody without a contract, and then you saw that didn't work out so well. So now when you go back into business again and another partnership comes up, don't make the same mistake and say, okay, no agreement. This time have an agreement. But now you signed an agreement and a new thing happened. What? The agreement was too strong or too weak or too long. So don't make the same mistake again with somebody else, with the next thing. Same concept with tshuva. You're going to fail on the way to the top. The key is not to keep failing the same thing over and over again for 20 years. Fix yourself. See what causes the problem. You see that you're failing in regards to morality. So aside from stopping, you have to see what's causing you to go back to it. Is it going to specific places? Is it talking to specific people? Is it watching specific things? You see the trigger points. Whatever your trigger points, don't trigger yourself and think this time it's not going to happen. It's like an alcoholic that wants to recover. The only way to truly recover is not just not drinking anymore, but they also have to change friends. They have to change phone number. They have to change location. They have to change hobbies. They have to change their use of time. And they can't make their whole life just about recovery. Go occupy yourself with something else. So a person has to know how to not repeat the same mistakes over and over again by reviewing their actions. And once they review their actions and they see, this is where I failed, this is where I succeeded, this is where I did good, this is where I did bad, they'll succeed. I even see this, one time I saw it in a trader that became very successful. He turned, a very small amount of money into like $15 million. And very small, like $10,000 or something like that. He turned into $15 million. And of course, he had many failures along the way. But one of the main things that caused him to be successful over the longer period of time is that he logged all of his mistakes. Every time he made a mistake where he was too stubborn on a trade, or he was too, committed to something, or too big of a trade, too small, all of these different things, he actually wrote it down and he reviewed them. And every time a mistake happened, he saw, did I do the same mistake again or not? And he became very, very particular about reviewing himself and holding himself accountable to his mistake. And that was the secret of his success. His secret of success was not that he never failed again. He certainly failed, but he limited repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And that's one of the keys to success in business, in marriage, and certainly in servitude of HaShem. Rabbi, what is the halakha concerning jury duty if you get chosen? As far as jury duty, it's not really something that you have much of a choice on. In America, it's the law of the land. So if they choose you, you have to go. Now, once you go, they're going to ask you questions. And one of the things you can say, they ask you, do you think that you're a valid candidate for this. And you could tell them, listen, I'm here. I'm going to follow the law. I'm just going to tell you that, the law of the land conflicts with my belief system. I believe in things that are contrary to the law of the land, such as, slavery and, violation of Shabbat is death penalty. So these are some of the things that I believe. Or someone that stole cannot go to jail. They just have to pay double. These are the things that I believe. So, they'll look at it and they'll decide whether they want you to be a judge or not, if you're part of the jury or not. Most of the times they're simply going to run away from you because nobody wants to deal with such a headache. And that's it. But to go and attend, you have to, because that's the law of the land that you live in. My husband hired a Jewish contractor to fix our kitchen. Unfortunately, it became apparent before he started the work that he is not knowledgeable or professional, and therefore my husband canceled the contract and asked for our deposit back. He was very angry, but initially said he'd return the money. However, to date, he has not. Are we allowed to report him to the state contractors group? What should we do halachically? No, you're not allowed to go to the state contractors group. You have to take him to a bet din. You have to take him to a bet din, and the bet din will tell him that whether he owes you the money or not. The bet din will decide whether you're correct in your assessment or you're wrong. Once the bet din concludes whether you're correct or wrong, then then obviously the bet din will have a document that if he does not follow it, let's say for example the bet din says that he owes you $10,000, he does not follow it, then you can sue him in civil court and use that document, and the court system here in America accepts the bet din judgment. But to go to the contractors group, a state contractors group, is certainly not allowed at this stage. Number one, because you did not go to a bet din, and number two, you can cause him much more damage than he caused you. Where he caused you, let's say, $10,000 worth of damage, but if you go to the state contractors group, he could lose his license and his livelihood. That's much more than $10,000. So it's certainly not allowed to do such a thing. Jews get into disagreements, they go to a bet din. That's how we resolve our problems. We don't go to the authorities. That's how a person can lose their olam haba. Because you said that if someone keeps Torah, no one can hurt them, but 6 million were hurt. So they didn't keep Torah because they were hurt? No. So first of all, the reality is that most of the people that lived at the time of the Holocaust were not observant of the Torah. That's a fact. There was nearly 90% assimilation in parts of Europe, especially Germany. Other parts of the world had, 75% assimilation, intermarriage, Jews marrying non-Jews, Jews converting to Christianity. So the world at large of Jewry was on the verge of extinction by itself, even without the Holocaust. In fact, in Rav Ephraim's Ochachot v'Tochachot, one of the sections talks about the Holocaust, and in essence, where was God during the Holocaust? And it includes a study that was done by a non-Jew of the times, and see where it is. And he says that based on the research that he did, Judaism, and this is not a Jew. This is a non-Jew doing a study on the Jewish people for historical purposes. Here we go. In his book, Professor Bernard Wasserstein, he's a historical professor, expert in Jewish history, who teaches in the University of Chicago. And he says, in regards to the time before the Holocaust, he says in regards to the Jews of Europe, there was a demographic breakdown. There was a very difficult demographic breakdown in a very negative way, where there was a high level of assimilation of Jews marrying non-Jews. The spoken language of Hebrew and Yiddish especially, Yiddish was the standard language at the time, became more and more minimal, meaning less people spoke Yiddish, and started going on a downward spiral. The observance of the Torah and the religion itself was in a straight projection downwards for a long period of time already. And even if he says, "Afilu antisemiyut lo hevia leyerida b'nisuyot ha'arovet," even the anti-Semitism did not stop the intermarriage. Usually, when the goyim hate you, you don't want to marry them. No, the intermarriage continued despite the anti-Semitism. And he says, "Ma she'ani menaseh la'agid hu sheyehudei Europa hayu b'mashber kiyumi, gam lelo ha'ayum hachitzoni shel Hitler." He says, what I'm trying to tell you is that the Jews of Europe were in a existential risk, even without the outside threat of Hitler. And this is in an interview that was put in a newspaper called Israel Today in December 24th, 2018. Point being is that when you see not just what happened with the Holocaust as the aftermath, but where were the Jews before the Holocaust, you see that most of the Jews in the world were not following the Torah and the mitzvot. And the Torah tells us in Parashat Bechukotai, and also Parashat Azinu, and also Parashat Kitavo, and also Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, Perek Chelek, and many other places that, including this week's parasha actually, that when we do the will of Hashem, Hashem protects us, but when we don't, Hashem will punish us to such an extent that He sends us a foreign enemy that we've never known, and that literally can cause more damage than we can possibly imagine. And all of the details of what happened in the Holocaust were not only mentioned in the Torah, but even the Chachamim of the time, or even up to 100 years before it, already said that this is what's going to happen. Now, the big question is, okay, many people were sinning, even the majority of people were going against God, but what about the righteous people? Very simple. Once there's a decree on Klal Yisrael, a negative decree on Klal Yisrael, then both the righteous and the wicked are put in the same basket. That's what the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat said at the time of the Beit HaMikdash. Surely there were some people that were good, but even they were punished, along with the evil people that were idolaters and so on. Why? Because their goodness had limitations, where they did not rebuke their fellow Jew in order to get them to do Teshuva. So even though they were following the Torah as far as keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher, not being an idol worshiper, that's good. But they violated the Torah by not helping their fellow Jew do Teshuva and stop their idolatry and their immorality and so on. So when there is a bad decree on the world of Jewry, then both the righteous and the wicked suffer together. Why? Because Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Lazeh. All of Am Yisrael are accountable for each other. And that's why during that big decree, individually speaking, which was what I was referring to earlier, which is when somebody follows the Torah and mitzvot, then Hashem will protect them. That's individually speaking. But as a nation, as a total, that's a different story. But that's also why there's not, it's not every day that Hashem, Baruch Hashem, brings us a Holocaust. It happens every so often when Hashem has to, in essence, save His people by punishing them. Save His people by nearly annihilating them, as happened multiple times in history. whether it's from the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Spaniards, the Nazis. There's many different nations have tried to destroy us throughout all of history. Baruch Hashem, we're here and they're not. But the key is that Hashem allowed all of that to happen because this, in essence, got us to do tshuva, and this is one of the ways that Hashem uses His law to get His herd, get His people to come back into order. So it doesn't mean that the individual blessings are not valid. It means that we have individual judgment, we have a national judgment, and that's in essence the difference. I heard a rabbi that a barren woman couple are considered like dead. Why is it so? Since I heard of many couples who left a fortune to yeshivot so children can learn and follow Torah for years to come. So aren't they benefiting the world both spiritually and physically? Well, a woman that is not able to bring children in the world, we learn from our matriarchs who said it about themselves. If I can't bring a kid to the world, it's like I'm dead. It's in essence a woman feeling like she's she has a defect. And in fact, if a woman is married to a man and she's not able to bring him kids, after 10 years, he needs to marry a different woman. Because he has an obligation to bring children to the world. She doesn't have an obligation to bring children to the world. So if she's not able to bring children to the world, then he needs to marry a second woman. I mean, of course, it's something that a lot of people don't like and don't want to do, and that's why we have to pray to Hashem to not ever put us in that situation, or any of Klal Yisrael in that situation. But a person needs to know that they have to pray. They have to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make their bodies function and their seed to continue. Now, of course, if a person is not able to bring children into the world, that does not make them a bad person. Hashem simply decreed that they're not going to have children, but they can still do a whole lot of good. They can still create a lot of good. One of the very well-known books for Segula of bringing children to the world is the what is it called? I have it over here. No F was that? The Ezel. I always forget the name. One of the is this it? No. No. Where's my book? See, that's what happens. I forget. Anyway, one of the books that's known as a Segula, when people study it, they bring children to the world. It brings a lot of blessings. One of the reasons for that is because the author himself said he did not have any kids. His Torah books are his kids, and anyone that studies his books, he says he'll pray for them in Shamayim for them to have kids. Because people that learn his Torah, in essence, are considered as spiritual kids, so he prays for them in Shamayim. So again, a person that does not have physical kids in this world, it doesn't make them an evil person. They can still do a whole lot of good. But it does not mean that people shouldn't care about whether they should have kids or not. As far as people that are wealthy, that leave a lot of money to yeshivot after they die, I don't know necessarily how many people actually do it, how many don't, but again, one thing has nothing to do with the other. Why are people calling themselves Ger Toshav and not Noahites? Because people want to make themselves feel better and make themselves sound like they're knowledgeable and that they're better than others. It all comes from ego. It doesn't come from knowledge, because there is no more Ger Toshav anymore. There is a person who's either a Jew or he's a Noahide. That's pretty much it. You could either be a righteous Jew, a wicked Jew, a righteous Noahide, or a wicked Noahide. Ger Toshav is not available anymore, but people will call themselves whatever they want. They just want to make themselves feel better. I even had one young guy tell me that his local rabbi over there said to him that since he really wants to convert, but he can't convert quite yet, but since he really wants it, he really should not be called a Noahide anymore, but rather a ger shemit gayer, meaning a convert that wants to convert. This is a terminology that was invented by that rabbi, if that story is even true. What this young man is saying is true even. But the point is that this was a term that was created, invented. It's not from the Torah, it's not from Chachamim. People that are experts in the field of conversion that I've spoken to have never heard such a terminology. But again, why do people do such things? To make themselves feel better, because they have to soothe their ego. They don't care about the Torah, they don't care about HaShem, they don't care about the truth, they care about their ego. And people that care about their ego, they're going to do whatever they need to in order to soothe their ego, even if that means going against the Torah. Isn't a mitzvah to publish what an enemy does? Why is it not Lashon Hara? Is Lashon Hara making public only a fellow duja? No. As far as publicizing what an enemy does, it depends on what your definition of enemy is. If it's your own personal enemy, then it depends what you're publicizing. If your enemy just got divorced and you publicized it, then it's considered Lashon Hara and you'll have to suffer in Gehinnom for that. If your enemy is somebody that makes more money than you, and you publicize that he just made a lot of money, that's Lashon Hara, and you'll have to go to Gehinnom for that. If your enemy is a pedophile, and you publicizing that he's a pedophile, that's a mitzvah, and you'll go to Gan Eden for that. You'll go to heaven for that. So it all depends how you define an enemy. It also depends on what are you publicizing. It's there are details that are necessary. And the details of Lashon Hara are very, very important because it determines whether something is going to be in a reward or a punishment for the person that speaks it. Okay, let's see what we have here. A few more questions. We're already on for a couple of hours. Let's see. Do I live in Israel? No, I live in the United States. דבר בעברית. בסדר, אני יכול לדבר בעברית. מה השאלות? עשיתי שיעור בעברית כבר היום, ברוך השם, עם הרב אפרים כחלון. אפשר לראות את זה בתחנה שלי, תלכו לתחנה של הרב אפרים כחלון, ביוטיוב. יש ברוך השם אלפי שיעורים. אוקיי. Let's see. Okay, YouTube, you guys want to send a question right now? Send a question, I'll answer one or two more and I'm finished. So, come on, next question, we'll answer. Okay, let's see. Regarding offspring that are born from a promiscuous relationship or out of wedlock, but their lives turn out to be very righteous people and live strictly according to the first, contrary to their parents. Are these special neshamot, and are they here to do tikkun from the previous life, which explain why they would be born and even grow up in difficult conditions? Yes, the Zohar Kadosh says that there are certain neshamot that are hostages of the Satan, and if they free themselves by doing tshuva, by overcoming the obstacle, they can become extraordinary tzaddikim. And some of the examples that the Zohar gives is Yitro, David HaMelech, Rabbi Akiva, even Esav. Esav obviously failed the test, but the others succeeded. So people that have a very difficult background, are certainly given that test because their neshama can do something that people that don't have that test cannot. Meaning, some people, if you give them a 5 pounds, they can't lift it. Other people, you give them 500 pounds, they can lift it. And the same concept with different tests. And that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu is the perfect judge who gives everybody exactly what they can handle. He gives every single body what they can handle. And whatever test you have is exactly what you can handle. Should all Jews move to Israel now? No, not necessarily. It depends on the circumstance. It depends what is the purpose of your moving there. What will you do for a living? Does your spouse want to move? Is it going to cause you to learn more Torah or less Torah? It depends. Depends why move, why not, why now? As far as making aliyah, I have a couple of videos back to back about that topic. And it's, I believe it's in the Era of Mashiach series. And I think it's titled, Should All Jews Make Aliyah Right Now? And then the other one says, all Jews need to make aliyah right now. And obviously both titles are not exactly what they seem to be. Watch both of those lectures. It goes into the details of everything I just said much more extensively. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for learning with me. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of you that watched this shiur, that shared this shiur, that contributed, anyone that wants to donate to help us with all the wonderful things the organization is doing, whether it's giving out the tens of thousands of books right now that we're giving out for free, or it's the USBs, all the wonderful things you could donate on our website, BeEzratHashem.org, or BHTorah.org, or you could donate by sending a check, a wire transfer, on YouTube, on Facebook. There's, Baruch Hashem, plenty of ways to donate. And if you want to, that would be fantastic for all involved, especially for the donor, because Gadol HaMaaseh Min HaOseh. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, greater is the one that actually enables another to do than the one that does. Meaning, when you donate to help other Jews do tshuva by giving them a book, by giving lectures and so on, you get even a bigger reward than us that's giving the lecture or giving the book. Why? Because you enabled us to do it. So in essence, again, go back to the beginning of the shiur where I talked about the importance of doing Kiruv, but really the benefits more than the importance than anything else. Because when people really understand the benefit of doing Kiruv, they literally make it their number one investment in life, both investment of money and investment of time. Thank you very much for learning with me. Bracha v'atzlacha. Enjoy the Torah and be holy.